prayer with song. This is time right for the kids to follow Carrie. If they're not already there, perfect. And today, because I'm always jealous when the kids go and we say they have more fun than we do, I want to play a game with them. I have a little game prepared for us. And we're going to take the next 7 minutes to play a game. I have these little notes here. Everyone gets one. I hope there's enough. If not, then the last ones are spectators, and I want to get their opinion as well. This is a simple game that I call Culture Salad. In Germany, we mix everything together and call it a salad. You can have pasta salad, tomato salad, carrot salad, cucumber salad. You can make salads out of anything. So today we're playing Culture Salad. It's a very simple game. You get a little piece of paper which says your culture is a number. Doesn't matter what number. But then it says what your behavior is. As we all know, different people behave differently because of their background, their culture, their family setting. Today, your behavior is defined by me. So it's going to be a lot of fun. For example, this one says, oh no, I cannot say it. For example, you have to figure it out there. So, for example, one behavior could be you can only talk to a person while you jump up and down. So you have to jump all the time, okay? But another person might have a different behavior. They can only talk to you while they sit, okay? But now here's the challenge. You can only talk to each other if the other one mirrors your behavior in some way or another. So the next line tells you in what case you're allowed to talk to the other person. Let's say the one who jumps up and down is only allowed to talk to another person that jumps up and down. Not because that's the definition, but you have to look what is the other person's behavior and mirror it to be able to get into a conversation. Now, everybody has their own behavior. Some people have the same behavior. If you meet someone who has the exact same tick, behavior, habit, let's say you're jumping up and down, you see someone jumps up and down, and you jump over there, you're like, dude, are you culture? And then you can say the number. You ask about the number, if that person is actually the same number, you can immediately go to the goal of your conversation, because the goal is to figure out what's their favorite animal. But your favorite animal is not your actual favorite animal today, but it's defined by me. So every piece of paper also says, your favorite animal is, and then there's an animal listed. So your goal for the next 6 minutes is to find out as many favorite animals of other people as possible. If they have a different behavior, try to figure out what their behavior is so you can get into a conversation and make sure they behave the way that they need to behave so they can talk to you. If they're the same culture, you can immediately tell each other the favorite animal. If they're not, you have to ask questions. Your questions can go in any direction. It can be, is your favorite animal red? And the person can say yes or no. Or what color is your favorite animal? And they can say the color. So it's not bound to certain kinds of questions. The only question you're not allowed to ask is, what is your favorite animal? Okay? It sounds more complicated than it is. Simple, you look at a piece of paper, you try to do what it says, you only talk to people that do what they have to do, you try to figure out what other people do, and you try to get into conversations to find out as many favorite animals as possible. I'm going to hand these out, give you a second to read through it, and I'm open for questions if somebody needs clarification. Just grab one. If somebody doesn't want to play, you don't have to, you can just pass it on. Okay? Whoever doesn't want to play can just watch, and then I will be curious what they observe. So, you take one, you don't have to. Any questions at this point? No questions?
No?
Okay, I'm going to wait till. Some of the pieces are cut in the wrong spot, so if something is slightly cut, we make sure you can always read everything, and sometimes the animal's on the top, sometimes on the bottom. Doesn't matter, it's still your animal.
That's hilarious.
Oh my goodness.
Not everyone has one yet, and I hope there's going to be enough. A few got lost because we cut right through them. We give everybody time to read theirs, because otherwise it will be unfair. So the goal is, if anybody within the next 5 minutes can figure out more than 3 animals, and Don't listen into other people's conversation. That's not fair. Okay? It's not walking through the room trying to listen where somebody says an animal. That's out of the conversation. If you actually get 3 animals, you're really, really good. If you figure out 1, you're already good. Does everybody have their culture? Everybody understands the culture? Any open questions? No? Then I would recommend that you get up and walk around. Use also the foyer a little bit. And 5 minutes time starts now. Last minute.
They're coming back.
Okay, time's over. Please take a seat. Time is over. Please take a seat now. All right. How did it go? Did anybody figure out 3 animals? Someone has 3? Someone has 3. What 3 animals? Exist?
Guinea pig and dog.
They all existed, so that might be right. Yeah. Gus, you also had 3?
Dinosaur. Dinosaur angels and animal and unicorn.
Are you sure? You're making that up, right? No, it's actually right. Yeah. They were part of the game. Yes. Because sometimes when we talk to other cultures, they say stuff that we're like, eh? That doesn't make sense to me. That's not in my category of that. So, how did it feel overall? Like 2 or 3 people, and whoever was observing, I would love to hear what they saw. What was your observations or your feeling during this game?
I was annoyed.
Like who? Annoyed because you didn't get to a point?
He kept interrupting me when
I was following the rules.
I'm good at eye contact, but
Yeah.
for a millisecond I would look away and he yelled at me.
Very good.
Nadia?
Nadia?
Rules.
I found someone that I thought was in the same culture as me, but it turned out that she was just imitating what I was doing by accident. Like,
Which sometimes works, yeah. I think that's still a reason why German and Brazilians get along quite well, because just by accident we don't understand that the one is so different. But, yeah, sorry. Any other observations?
Some cultures are easier to know what the culture is. Others are like,
Right. Right. Like there's some that like everybody knows the stereotypes about some cultures, about some people, but then there's so many niches and then nobody knows your family background. So like comparing it to real life, there's so many ways people are different. And so many ways we day by day meet so many different cultures. In Toronto, in like people from different nations, from different cultural backgrounds. But it narrows down to every person with their own story, with their own family background, their own family culture is completely different. And day by day we meet those invisible barriers of difference that we actually have to cross through or over. And you have some experiences where it becomes annoying, it becomes really difficult. Sometimes by accident we do the right thing. Sometimes when we meet someone who has a similar background, who's similar to us, it feels like it's so much easier, so we can immediately talk about it. Sometimes that's also just a lie. It seems like it at first. It's so interesting how we live together with so many people. And last week we talked about our first value, which was open doors. And we say we don't want to have barriers between us and others, but now the question is, how do we actually do that? Not to look at these barriers and not always be kept at distance because of the differences, but cross through the barriers that we often meet and see around us to actually get close to people and to love them the way God loves them. And that brings us to our second value, which is the
Open heart.
open hearts. Exactly, perfect, thank you. So the open hearts is our second value that we want to talk about today because of all these differences, because of the difficulty to sometimes cross boundaries, because some people are better at it and some aren't. But there is, again, the opposite to an open heart that is a closed heart in some way, and we need it in different ways in everyday life. We need it, for example, when someone had a bad experience in the past, and then we meet the person and we walk right into that. We ask a question that pushes into that. Or it's just because of the way you look like, or because of the way you have acted in something, or because you go to a church that people are like, not with me. And there's this huge barrier. Or because of things in the presence, confusion, contradiction, that doesn't come together. Like, this is annoying. I don't like this. This doesn't come together with me. I don't think this is the right thing to do, so I stay away. Like, there's quickly, because of things that don't add up for me with my logic, with my understanding, a reason to stay away from people, rather than to try to fully understand them. And sometimes it's because of the fear of the future. What happens if I take this step? What happens if I talk more to this person? What happens if I invite them to my home and share more time with them? I think the past, the present, and the future experiences contradictions and confusion and the fear of what can come, are quickly building such barriers. And quickly making hearts actually to hearts out of ice. And now my question, who's been with Reach for longer than 2 years? Perfect. So actually, I thought about having you all sit in the back and everybody else sit from the front. That's not important. But I brought you a heart frozen in ice. And it is a classic, and I'm going to do it every 2 years. Don't worry about it. Because as we go through life, we actually meet quite often hearts that are frozen in ice, hearts that are hurt, hearts that are holding back, hearts that are different, people that are different, and people's hearts that don't want to talk to us or don't want to get to us more. And now we say we want to live open doors. We want to get to people and have people that we're welcoming. We want to be part of the community. But what if we meet these frozen hearts? What if we meet people that have experienced something in the past that keeps them from us? That say, no, what you believe and how you live, that doesn't get together with me, and they want to stay away. Or that are fearful of what might come if they take the next step with you, if they take the next step with God. Because it's not just about you and other people, it's also about you bringing God into other people's lives. And then meeting God, and there's maybe even more ice around their heart. In that moment they realize, oh, this is not just about a friendship, this is a person that actually speaks God into my life. What do I do with that? It's beyond just a fun time. It's a time where suddenly spiritual matters come into the whole situation, and they might get even more frozen up because they know that there's a new standard, that like you have a different standard, you have beliefs that challenge them, even without you saying something, challenge them already because they know you're there. And you might realize that talking to some people, you might realize that differences quickly show how frozen hearts can be. When we look at the churches and church history, we also see how many people tried to solve the frozen hearts they met, how to deal with it. Quite often there's one classic approach. I can do it without a microphone, right? I call it the hammer approach. Quite often when we meet someone who we realize, ooh, that person thinks differently, that person is different, but that person that needs to understand what's right, we come with correction and judgment. With like, oh no, this person is different, that person shouldn't be like that. How about I try to explain to them that that's wrong? And how about I give them a real teaching on how to do it? And how about I just, in any moment that I can correct them, I will let them know. And rather than getting the heart out of the ice, quite often hearts get scattered, broken, hurt. And it is not easy to not get there because of the many differences we have. But we see it quite often that, especially like if we look at people of different faith, how they approach each other, that it becomes quickly a battle, a fight, a way to who has the better arguments, who has the better way to explain it, who can correct the other one and find the mistakes in the other one's thinking. And it's all about trying to get the other one right. And when we try to get the other one right, we quite often end up piercing right into their hearts. And while God loves broken hearts that come to Him, He doesn't love broken hearts that get more broken. And I think Jesus has a different approach with people that He meets with these frozen hearts. There's the one approach that He has with the religious people that should understand, that should know, but with the people that have this frozenness because of past experiences, because of the contradictions, because of the future fears, He often treats them a little differently than coming with the hammer of judgment and the screwdriver of correction. There is correction at some point, but in the first moment, Jesus' answer to seeing the frozenness, to seeing the ice around the heart, is different. And we want to look into that. For that, you need your Bible. And if you don't have one on you already, there's some brown Bibles flying around. And please open it to John chapter 1, the verses 43 to 51. John is in the New Testament, so we're further at the back. New Testament, it starts with 4 books that talk about Jesus. Mark, Matthew, Luke, and then we have John. If we say chapter, that's the big number 1, and then there's small numbers. Those are the verses 43 to 51. If you want to cheat in the brown Bible, it is page 912. If you don't want to cheat, you can also ask someone who's sitting next to you. There's no shame in not finding it right away. Don't you worry. But we're going to wait till everybody has it. John chapter 1, the verses 43 to 51. It's a story where Jesus meets a guy who clearly has his heart frozen. Who wants to read for us?
The next day, Jesus decided to leave for Galilee. Finding Philip, he said to him, "Follow me." Philip, like Andrew and Peter, was from the town of Bethsaida. Philip found Nathanael and told him, "We have found the one Moses wrote about in the law, and about whom the prophets also wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." "Nazareth? Can anything good come from there?" Nathanael asked. "Come and see," said Philip. When Jesus saw Nathanael approaching, he said of him, "Here truly is an Israelite in whom there is no deceit." "How do you know me?" Nathanael asked. Jesus answered, "I saw you while you were still under the fig tree before Philip called you." Then Nathanael declared, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." Jesus said, "You believe because I told you I saw you under the fig tree. You will see greater things than that." He then added, "Very truly I tell you, you will see heaven open and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man."
Thank you so much. We have a story. The first guy who comes, Philip, well, he has an open heart. He's like, "Wow, Jesus, that must be the Messiah. Here we go." And then he goes to Nathanael. What was Nathanael's first reaction? Please in the same voice that Nadia read it with.
Nazareth!
What can come from that? What good can come from this place? And what we see here is a man, Nathanael, who had his beliefs, and I could definitely see him being disappointed by the past. Probably there was a Messiah figure coming up every 2 years who said, "I'm the Messiah," and Nathanael maybe had some hopes that really one of them would change something, would free the Israelites from the Romans, and every time it turned out to be a fake. And so what he experienced in the past, where he was like, "This is going to be great," it was a disappointment. Maybe that was one of the reasons why he said, wait, not with me. But then there's also contradictions in the present that he says, well, Nazareth? Nothing good can come from Nazareth, and the Messiah is supposed to come from Bethlehem, so that cannot be the real guy. Not understanding that Jesus originally was born in Bethlehem. But in his mind, that did not go together. And maybe there was a fear of the future. What if I do believe that's really the Messiah? What will change? What will happen? Will he ask me to take up a sword and fight against the Romans? Does it mean my whole life has to change? And in what way? What will happen if I say, yes, this is the Messiah, and I walk with him through the rest of my life? And so Nathanael has this frozen heart. And Jesus could come with hammer and screwdriver and could be like, well, everything that happened in the past, that was not my fault. That was these people doing something wrong. Like, he could just blame other people and push it away. Just like we could say, well, what you've experienced in the past, that wasn't real Christians that talked to you. Or what you see in church history, well, they did something wrong, they misunderstood it, and we try to explain it away. The bad things that happened in the past, the bad experiences people had. But Jesus doesn't do that. Jesus could also come with a screwdriver and hammer and be like, so Nathanael, let me tell you. Here, we open the Bible, let's read it, and then here's my birth certificate, which says Bethlehem, not Nazareth. Let me correct you because you're clearly wrong. But Jesus doesn't do that in that moment either. Jesus could also start a long sermon about why Nathaniel didn't have to fear anything and that he actually had the plan to die for everyone rather than having people take up the sword and fight. And yet Jesus didn't do that either. What did Jesus do? What is Jesus' first sentence when he sees Nathaniel? In the text.
I saw you while you were still under the picture.
That's already a second, yeah.
You truly is the Israelite whom we hear and see.
Right? He comes up to Nathaniel, and rather than saying, dude, you've been so wrong, and dude, you've done so many mistakes in the past walking with these people, he says, I see a man who's really trying, a man who takes his religion serious, a man who puts effort in doing the right thing at the right time. I see someone who's showing that he cares, might be misled in it, but he cares. And I see potential in this guy. I see someone who has potential and is really working on himself. And the first thing that Jesus does is he takes kind of like warm water rather than taking the hammer, and he says, Nathaniel, I see you, I know you, and I rejoice over the potential that's in you. I know you, I know the best parts of you, and I rejoice over it. Some people think that Jesus might have used sarcasm in this moment, being like, that's a real Israelite. I don't think so. Honestly, I don't think that the writers of the Gospels would display sarcasm in such a moment and then suddenly say serious all the things Jesus said were serious and important and then play with sarcasm. I think Jesus was serious in the way and sincere in the way that he talked to Nathaniel, saying, you are an Israelite that really tries. I see this good part of you. I see who you are. And then comes the second sentence that Mike already said. Nathaniel's like, how do you know me? How do you think you would know me? And Jesus says, well, I see the best things in you and I rejoice. I also see those fig tree moments, those moments that you try to hide from everybody else. Because I don't think Nathaniel was just sleeping under a fig tree, had a sign up, here sleeps Nathaniel. Jesus walked by him and says, well, I saw you back there sleeping, you were snoring, and there was a sign that said it was you. Something about this moment under the fig tree must have been important, life-changing, something that Nathaniel didn't want anybody to know. Maybe a moment of huge doubt where he said, God, you're not even existing, you're not doing anything. And he didn't want anybody to know. Or maybe a moment of sin, of a huge mistake. It was definitely something nobody else should know about. He was trying to hide. One could say maybe one of the worst things of his life. And Jesus says, Nathaniel, I even know the worst moments and the worst things in your life. And yet, no, not yet. Because of that, I stand here with open arms. I stand here caring, trying to understand, reaching out to you, trying to bring forgiveness for your mistakes, trying to bring hope for the moments where you have given up, trying to tell you that God is so much more than the God you have thought about in all these moments that you were hiding. And Jesus uses warm water, gentleness, patience, love, understanding to speak into Nathaniel's heart what hammer and screwdriver could not speak at all. The great thing is Jesus doesn't stop there either. He then walks with Nathaniel. Nathaniel becomes one of the disciples to then learn more about Jesus. There was definitely moments of correction, but built on the gentleness and love he had shown in the first place. Built on an open heart that was shown rather than just a correcting and judging leadership. Jesus' answer has these two steps. Jesus sees the best in us, and he rejoices over our potential. You were made in the image of God. It's broken, yes. But you haven't fully lost this promise that God created you for a purpose and after a good idea. There's potential in you, there's good things, and Jesus sees them and he rejoices over them. And Jesus sees the worst in you, in all of us. He knows our mistakes, he knows our doubts, he knows our wrong desires, he knows where we have experienced something bad in the past, he knows all the lies. And he stands there with open arms and says, I know. And he keeps his arms open until he hangs on the cross with these arms wide, saying, I know, and that's why I'm hanging here. To die for your sin, to die for all the things that you've done wrong, to tell you that I love you, no matter how you think about me, I love you, and I'm still going to die for you. That is open hearts. The attitude that the good things are great to celebrate and the bad things are not something that make us run away from people, but that make us come to the people to try to understand, to try to bring Jesus' salvation into the moment, redemption, hope, and healing, when nothing else could help. That is how Jesus meets Nathanael. I love that story. It's just such a story on the side, but the way that Jesus says, I know you, from the best part to the worst part, and that's why I'm here, is so crucial. And we are not Jesus, we're not God. We don't have that knowledge of people even though we've not met them. So we have to start at getting to know people. Taking time to try to understand. Taking time to walk with them. Building relationship. Healthy relationships in which we celebrate the good things, in which we also talk about the bad things at the right time, in the right setting, with patience, with grace, with love, but with the best intention for people. Where we try to get hearts out of the ice that so often comes up. Open the doors that often it feels closed. And help people to trust again, not just us, but the God that created them. And to give their lives to Him. How amazing would it be if we learn to have open hearts that display what Jesus did here? That then opens up, melts out the hearts of other people, so they give it into the hands of Jesus. For Him to take them along for the rest of their life and eternity. To shape, to transform, to redeem in His ways. But now I want to make it personal for us once more. We're going to celebrate communion. And my big question for us is today, do we let to speak Jesus into our hearts? Do we let Jesus speak into our hearts what He likes and what He doesn't like? Do we give Him the moments where He can just say, hey, I know you, and I see your potential, and I celebrate that. And hey, I know you and I see the worst things in you, and that's why I'm here. Give them to me now. Otherwise, you just carry them around with you. So, how about you all close your eyes for a second? Imagine yourself at a spot where it's just you, where you feel comfortable. And now imagine Jesus coming up to you. You don't have to give Him a face or anything, just if Jesus walked up to you in this situation, what would be your first reaction? What is your first emotion, your first thought that comes? And no matter what you said or thought, whether it was positive or negative, whether it was joy because Jesus came or frustration that you had to tell Him, He looks at you and He says your name. And he says, I know you. I know the things you're great in, your talents, your gifts, your potential, and I love it. And he says, I know you, I know that you're keeping things to yourself, hiding things. I know you've made mistakes. I know you have walked paths you shouldn't have or that were not honoring God. I know you're wrestling with things and you have doubts. Do you want to give all that to me? Here I stand with arms wide open. Here I hang on the cross with arms wide open for you. Jesus, we thank you that you came to us in your love, that you meet us with a gentleness that's not understandable, with patience, that you see good things in us even at moments that we might not see them anymore. That you see the worst in us, the things that we try to hide, that we don't even want to admit to ourselves. And thank you that that doesn't keep you away from us, but it's the reason why you came to us. To bring redemption, to bring healing, to take it away. Thank you that we can give that to you. And I pray that you open our hearts over and over again, that make them into hearts of flesh rather than stone. Hearts that beat, that are alive in the way that you intended. How you made us. We are yours. Amen. I would ask the worship team to come up. We're going to do this the following.